Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I'm here today with a guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and just a little bit about you?
My name is Hardik Haryani. I have been an atheist like most of my life, ever since I was a child. I born in India. I live with my Hindu family, and but I was always curious, and until I was like 28 or 27. I don't remember exactly how long I have been on Facebook. Then I've learned that there are many atheists around the world. I learned about the Stephen Hawking. I went to a science college, and right now, but I dropped my college. Right now, I'm going to get my computer science degree in Northwest Arkansas, and I'm very eager to learn about the parenting. I have a kid, and I'm very curious.
Right, and so today, a little different subject than some of my videos. Today we're going to talk about the spanking debate and focusing specifically on positive and negative discipline. So I want to first address that we need to understand children are not adults. I think that some people forget this. They become an adult and they forget. People will say like children shouldn't, say, buy a car or shouldn't have a house or go to war at a certain age. But they seem to have unrealistic expectations for a child while they're developing, which would, in a sense, not be acknowledging that they're not actually developed enough at a certain age. The other thing to me is that children, in a sense, aren't born in a vacuum. They're not born with this humongous amount of pre-knowledge. They're born in our environment. And then they're born, in a sense, what we do with them. So this is really important. That children deeply need, to me, three things emotionally from adults. They need acceptance, which is recognizing, affirming, acknowledging, in a sense, building relationships and establishing them. This acceptance, in a sense. They need, in a sense, understanding, which involves empathizing, talking through and working through feelings. Because, many adults will have all kinds of feelings, but when a child has a feeling, oh, that's unreasonable. Really? It's not unreasonable. They're a child, and they're feeling these feelings, and it's for us to help them navigate them. It also, in fact, consoling. I hear a lot of parents sometimes, a child will say something, oh, you don't need to feel that way. Yeah, but they do. It's like telling someone they're depressed, just stop being depressed. Someone who's stressed out at work, just stop being, stressed out. Instead of really consoling it, yeah, I can see how they would feel that way. And a hard day at school may be nothing to an adult, but to a child, it may be their entire world. And so to me, it should involve this type of, in a sense, connecting an emotional way of understanding instead of just talking down to talking with. And the other thing to me then from that is support, praising children. In a sense, helping them agree through understanding. Like I said, if they're feeling fear, you don't say, you shouldn't be afraid. You should say, wow, I could see where you would be afraid. And here's reasons why I've learned not to be. That's more positive than just telling them, don't do this, or you shouldn't. In a sense, I also think it involves motivating. Say, you know what? Everyone can get afraid. This is how we work through it. Instead of just telling them, don't do it or stop doing it. And I think also it's reassuring, you know what? Everyone gets afraid. Instead of focusing on that they shouldn't be afraid or they don't need to be afraid, remind them that adults too get afraid. Adults too get worried, get stressed, feel alone, feel depressed, feel overwhelmed. We feel all these feelings and we forget that when a child is feeling them to, in a sense, relate in that way with them. And so to me also this gets to the point of spanking. And so just to say it right out there, I am anti-spanking. I value non-aggression principle in general, which basically states that it is immoral or in a sense it should not be initiated, the use of aggressive force that is not directly for self-defense or for other defense. So spanking and the use of aggressive force is a clear violation of this. And to me, thus, is an immoral act done an adult to a child who is defenseless. So to me, this also brings up after that thinking is that, children in general and since parental discipline that we, have to engage in. So how should, children then be disciplined? And this should be given a critical importance, that we talk in a sense about how you raise children. And this also involves talking and spending time with children, not just about not spanking, but how much time. Neglect can be a severe form of abuse. Because, like I said, children, in a sense, are emotional beings that need emotions from us. And so, to me, it involves things like, not just not spanking, but reading to them and spending time with them, putting them to bed, and other positive behavior topics. To me, developing a child is what we should see. It's not raising as the fact that we're somehow like you can raise an animal, a pet. It's that you can kind of leave them at their own devices. No, we have to aid them in development. And so it gets to the point that, how should we discipline? In a sense, I'm not saying that there's one right answer for every single question, but certainly hitting children is the least effective solution you could try. This is the importance to me, too, that understanding the difference of positive reinforcements and negative reinforcements has been studied, in research and behavioral research. Negative reinforcements may have a quick effect. Like if you give someone a shock or something, you do pain, you can get an immediate response. The thing is, it's never long term. So you're always going to need more spanking. Even if you are pro-spanking, you're going to need more spanking. It's not like you're going to, as it goes, you get less and less spanking. You need more and more spanking. And in fact, if you talk to most people that are pro-spanking, they'll generally, as a common thing, is say, I wasn't spanked enough. So to me, it always puts the question is, this behavior wasn't enough. They are already acknowledging that what they got didn't work. So, and also the importance of this type of spanking and negative reinforcement is generally a kind of authoritarian discipline. It's this top down instead of this connected side by side. I think that we need to approach children and not from the top looking down on them, because just think about this. How well do we relate to a boss that does that in a job even? If we put ourselves into a adult field, when someone's down and telling us we did wrong and telling us, it doesn't generally make us feel good. And we need to build good, positive relationships with children, so they're eager to please instead of fearful not to offend. I think it builds a better overall attitude. We want behaviors that are lasting. If you give, in a sense, this type of a feeling that it's a reward to do that which is right, then they seek that when you're not around. If it's an authoritarian and don't do or else you get it, they'll try to get away with as much as possible. Or they'll only do that which you say while you're around. And so...
Yeah, I think they become a smart liar,
Right.
They find some coping mechanism, to how to please my abuser, because they don't see you as a parent, a loving, caring parent, but they see you as this is an abuser. I need to please,
Right, it's out of fear instead of. I think a lot of people say, "Well, my parents love me." They may love you, but what they're using is fear tactics as a method of parenting. They're not using love tactics, so they may love you as a general sense. So, because I hear a lot of people like, well, my parents spank me, but they love me deeply. Well, but you're conflating two things. You're conflating a feeling, a bonding feeling, which is love, to a behavior that is unloving. It is unloving to hit people. So to me, this goes back to the spanking in a sense as a violation of a child. Children need to have the same rights as adults in a protection from abuse, whether it's in public areas or private sources. Hitting your wife is called domestic violence, and it's a crime, and it should be. Hitting another adult is called assault. It is a crime, and it should be. Hitting a child is called discipline and not a crime. What the heck? Come on. If anything, a larger person picking on a smaller person should be a greater crime, not a lesser one.
And I've been debating with people like free thinkers or people who thinks they are liberals,
Right.
and I don't understand why I don't get this point across. They think that new age parenting is that's why we have school shootings and stuff like that. I say they blame video games and technologies and pop culture or whatever. I mean, I say, what video game did people play, in World War One or World War Two,
Right.
So they really don't get this. This is very basic foundation of being human. It's a very basic foundation of humanity itself. How we want the next generation to act like. When I was a child, I knew that the people say you are the hope. You are the future. Okay, I'm living right now. I'm adult, and if I spank my child, I don't know what kind of hope people are living in.
Yeah, really.
They need to treat child right, like a human. Most of parents think that it's a circus. They are ringmaster, and children are like those, tigers, lions. You saw
Right,
in a
they getting
circus,
whipped, right?
and we need to train them, or they will go bad, or they don't care about that. They care more about what they're going to become after 20 years, 15 years, but they don't care about they are actually living right now. They are having a life right now. They are a child. They are experiencing a childhood right now, and they want to be feel loved. They want to be feel secure. They don't understand this. And we have a lot of studies that abuse, neglect, and all that stuff. It actually alters your brain. It actually alters your brain. You can compare two brain scans, with a child who is abused and a child who is loved and taken care of, and you can see their brain actually shrink.
Right. Well, right. It gets stunted in a sense. It's not exactly shrink as in it gets smaller. What happens is it develops slower. It gets retarded in its development. In other words, the one brain develops in a sense normally, and the other one is stunted development, which stunts the cognitive, so. And there's tons of things. In fact, I'm going to read some right now. In 2000, this is when the study came out. In the year 2000, neurologists studies the brain have found stress experience very high in young children that experienced being hit and spanking. So in 2001, there was they found that caregivers themselves found a source of distress when the children were unable to be, in a sense, aroused. This caused a breakdown of capacity to regulate experiences, and the inability, in a sense, to handle the core traumatic stress, and a breakdown of capacity to regulate internal stress of children at 2002. 2003, corporal punishment of infants results in an elevated baseline for cortisol, and a hormone that causes in a sense, from subtle forms of infant maltreatment. In 2009, the IQs of children from 2 to 4 who were not spanked were 5 points higher than the children who were. And the IQs of children from 5 to 9 who were not spanked were 2.8% higher than children's IQ who were spanked. 2009 also did a study of 17,404 university students from 32 different countries. The IQs of the low average countries were more prevalent. In 2009, it was shown that exposing children to physical punishment was detrimental effects on the brain development we just talked about, and reducing the volume of the brain's gray matter. 2010, it was shown that physical punishment had been seen and caused for alterations in diplomatic regions associated with vocabulary and abuse, just like the use of drugs and alcohol. And 2011, a study of 2 schools in West Africa were shown that corporal punishment was one which did not find that children at the school of corporal punishment were less able to perform tasks.
Mm-hmm.
2013, children who were frequently spanked by their at the age of 5 or had lower vocabularies than an age score for 9. 2014, study developed on family, a pilot investigation on corporal punishment in the home, showed that after 73% of incidents, the mother self-reported that corporal punishment were used, found that the data that 81% of the cases. In other words, the self-reporting of the mother says they only used corporal punishment 73% of the time, but they actually used it 81% of the time. And the mothers that were using corporal punishment were higher rates of, in a sense, indicate that corporal punishment administered were out of anger in a half of the cases. And so it's not, people always say it's out of love. No, it's out of anger. And in 2014, a research of over 1,000 children from 11 different groups across 8 different countries showed that childhood anxiety, aggression was caused by physical punishment. In 2015, there was a study that showed the use of spanking differs across educational levels. In other words, if you have a postgraduate degree, you're only 8% support spanking. A college degree, 15% spanking. Some college, 18% spanking. High school or less, 22% on average. So the lower your degree is, then, or education, the higher you think spanking is useful. And so in 2016, it showed that the risk of harm of spanking was confirmed in a 50-year analysis of research. In 2017, a study finds that spanking children at an early age can negatively impact the development for years to come. Children spanked and were under 15 months displayed negative temperament and were less likely to show positive behaviors in the 5th grade or even into their teen years. 2018, the spanking debate is over. Empirical, theoretical, and moral arguments against spanking are too compelling. Spanking research has showed that conductive of robust evidence in all these 3 positions. Spanking is correlated strongly with multiple negative outcomes for children. And it can go on, but the point I wanted to make is that there's not a debate in the sense of the science. The science is not a debate. When people say spanking debate, it's their personal feelings that they think it's effective. And like I said, if you talk to them, most of them think they didn't get it enough, and yet most of them are demonstrating just by that fact alone it wasn't very effective. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on it and your personal experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't go much on my personal experience. I was, verbally and physically spanked, from my mother as a child, and that was really horrible. But what I wonder, people sometimes say that not every child is same, some child just, react to the spanking, so I really don't know how to answer them, I mean, they have done studies on different sexes, people with different genetic makeup,
Right.
and all the results lead us to the same thing, that spanking is harmful.
Right.
But I have had hard time to get people across this, this. Either you use spanking, you use grounding techniques, you use verbal, any manipulation, any form of manipulation. That doesn't seems to be working on children, actually. Maybe it's a short term, maybe a day or two, but eventually you will find out that, they don't actually respect you. They don't actually love you. And the respect and love you get out of the fear, I don't call it love or respect, And this demand of mindless obedience,
Right.
I don't understand why children have to be obedient, Why can't they have their personal opinion? Why can't they just argue with us. Why don't we encourage our children to ask questions? And it starts from us, as a parent. They argue and they say they push the limits. I mean, yeah, of course, we are fucking humans. I'm in a car. We have pushed these limits. We went to the Mars, and moon. We are humans. That's, we born rational, So it's hard for me to, get my point across people. They many times, they use the word like, you're spoiling your child, child will be spoiled, or child wouldn't know what to do right in the future. So it's really crazy that they don't understand that there are so many ways, so many other ways. There are so many other resources, how to be a good role model. And the first thing is that you have to model a good behavior in your child.
I agree.
You cannot expect your child to be a good when you act like an asshole. No?
I agree. And I think it's really funny, too, because most people, when everything fails, will take their child to counseling, not to, a person that abuses children. So I mean, and then the child supposedly gets better from counseling, not by being abused. Right. So generally, most people would agree that when you send someone to a counseling, they're not beating them with your child with sticks in there. They're talking to them. They're reasoning with them. They're listening. They're doing, like I said, acceptance, understanding, and support. They're helping them model behaviors. So they're giving them different ideas of how to manage behaviors, on how to manage feelings, how to talk through your feelings, how to express, your feelings. So to me, but it's weird how some people can know that it's good to go to counseling and that counseling is good for children. A lot of times they just say it's too expensive, but yet they choose the option that's the opposite of that, which is abuse, and then try to act like that works, which is the opposite of what is happening in a counseling situation. Because I have a counseling a BA in psychology. And to me, I just find that to be the most odd, that they know that works, the counseling thing, and no abuse happens. And yet, this is what's really funny too. They always say, well, this kid's bad. Counseling takes what they call bad kids or hurt kids or abused kids or affected kids or delinquent kids and then helps them through talking to become better. So they don't get these kids that are already, affected or delinquent and then fix them by more beating. They fix them by this caring, this acceptance, this understanding, this support. So to me, it's just, like I said, odd when people think that, especially in I feel like you said in the free thinking or atheist community, it's odd to me when we seem to be fond of promoting science.
Yeah,
the
same people who believe in climate change,
right?
The same people don't accept the spanking research, or they still feel the need of kids being disciplined or blah blah blah, and they blame the new age parenting. I said, how many percentage of people actually follow the new age parenting? How many percentage of people have been doing that? I don't see. All the people I have seen, even in 2019, they still use spanking, abuse and all that. How many people are actually doing that?
Yeah, well, like I said, the evidence is that even if they did still do it, it never has had a positive effect. And like I said, and we know that if a child is delinquent, you don't beat them, send them to someone to do corporal punishment. You send them to counseling. And then in the counseling, they're able to work through that and become, not always, but generally a more chance of their becoming a productive, member of society because of talking to them. So the answer to me is not abuse. But like I said, there's many reasons why we shouldn't be spanking children. They range from all kinds of things. Like from spanking causes serious harmful side effects. And that parents have no way of seeing because, in a sense, the effects don't show up generally until later. But sometimes when the effects show up at the time, with is they have lower ability to stress, they can't manage feelings. That makes the parent more angry, thinking they need more spanking, which then makes more problems with their ability to manage stress, more problems in their ability to manage behavior. And so you're actually then repeating this abusive cycle. Then you get mad, why isn't this spanking working? So then you hear spanking more or for more reasons, thinking that that will be the cure for this problem, in a sense that semi is created by the person doing the spanking. And spanking,
it becomes more intense with the time,
right?
Because they are always going to push the limits, because they want the sense of their existence. The children need to feel like they exist by themselves. They are independent beings, and they have all the rights. Just because they are in a need of care doesn't mean that you can use all kind of resort, to discipline them. I mean, they are children. They are already independent, and they need to feel that way. They need to feel their very own existence. They need to feel that they are someone. They are someone.
Right. That they matter. That you accept them.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, and spanking is not somehow more effective than other manages or methods of control. Counseling, like I said, is very effective, and yet it doesn't beat the kids, doesn't touch the kids, doesn't verbally assassinate them or call them names. It basically works with the kid. And so to me, it's completely amazing how people that support any sort of reason or science or free thinking would come to the conclusion that abuse is the best method when it's absolutely not the best method. It's the laziest method. It's the most immature thinking method. As we've said, if you look at the who's promoting spanking, it's not the highly educated, it's the undereducated that are highly supportive of this.
And this is disturbing, to learn about free thinkers, so they support these ideas.
But I don't think that we should always understand that just because someone becomes an atheist, like someone said before, this one Christian I was talking to, he said, "Oh, Damien, you just think all atheists are better because they're atheists." No. Atheist means that you stop believing in a God. I don't know if you did that out of truly reason. You could have done it for all kinds of reasons. It could have even been somewhat cultural. So the question is not if you're not believing in one thing that's not reasonable, but how did you come to that not reasonable conclusion is a better thing to ask. And also, to me, the people are in a sense aren't born in a sense. We all are born with a lack of a belief in a God because we don't start with that. We're taught about a God, and then we choose to believe or not, or are indoctrinated, and so we believe or not, or it's culturally acceptable, so we believe or not. But in a sense, we're not born with this free-thinking, mind. We're born with a believing mind. We're born with the accepting mind, especially the accepting of things in society that people call true. And so, even if someone was in a sense atheist household, it does not guarantee that that child has been taught how to free think, how to think for themselves, how to reason. I mean, it's more likely because generally people that are atheists are generally more welcoming of things like science, but it's not a guarantee. And also the thing is, the majority of atheists were once religious, whether they stopped being religious as a child or they stopped being religious as an adult. Like in my case, I stopped being religious at 35. I started being an atheist then because I went to college and went, wait a minute, I think I was lied to. But so it's not the fact that everyone in our atheist community has somehow had lifelong atheism. Some people have only been for a short period of time. And some people, when they come in, they've lost a few beliefs, but it's not like they've lost the indoctrination of religion as a whole. And religion is generally very promoting of spanking, very promoting of gender, lines, very promoting of sexism and homophobia and all kinds of things. So it's not like you get, because there's a free thinker supposedly or atheists, or that may have still some sexist opinions, or homophobic opinions, and so or transphobic opinions, or all manner of some of them believe in magic, and there's all kinds of, because it's not just because you stop believing in one thing that, like I said, that it's even you did it reasonably, or if you did reasonably, it's not that you then apply that to every area of your life. I think it would be benefit of you if you did, but I think that there's a flaw, and also, even if everyone right now, everyone who's an atheist right at this moment, all became converted to reason and followed science and reason as much as possible, we're going to have it, but then within a year, we're going to have a whole new influx of people that just became atheists from a religious home, from a religious, culture, somewhere in the world. So we constantly have this new influx of people with these religious ideas that just are brand new atheists. So I think that it's easy for people to generalize like all atheists, thinking that like we're like some uniform thing. It's not, or that or that because we use these labels that we've been an atheist for a long time. I mean, I'm an adult, but I only became an atheist at 35. So just because someone's even an adult doesn't mean that they've been an atheist for a long time, or that they think, because thinking is hard. And a lot of times people get into their lives and do other stuff. And so they don't have, and they also, we feel like that in a certain area, we've thought about stuff better than someone else. And so it's easy to be lazy and then go, okay, well then I must think better in general, which is not true. You may think horribly, but you're an atheist. So,
but it's still disturbing, when you decide to go with logic and reason, so every part of your life, every area of your life, it's about the relationship, whether it's about the parenting or even, with your coworkers, you try to apply the logic and reasoning, that you always ask question to yourself, am I doing right? Is this valid? Am I wrong? But yeah, it's quite disturbing to learn that many free thinkers will go with spanking or
Well, right. So to me, free thinking is the lack of starting with dogma, but it's not a guarantee in a sense of rational thought. Somebody, and because I've been saying, I would first also, it depends on what you mean by free thinker. Some people just mean that I don't start with tradition, but that's not, or that I don't appeal to some authority, but that doesn't mean it's reasoned. You could be not appealing to authority, but have your own ridiculous, bigoted dogma, but not So I don't use the word free thinking very often. I generally say I'm a rationalist.
I really don't know. At this point, I really don't know what free thinking, because I think the flat earthers are free thinkers. The people who are anti-vaccines, I think, according to them, they are free thinkers.
Right. So right. So I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that free thinking is bad or free thought is bad, but just the lack of starting with a tradition doesn't really mean that you end up with reason. So to me, I'm a rationalist. Reason is my only master. I want to try to always think what is rational, what is reasonable. And then I understand this too. The problem is, it's not like I'm a rationalist now, everything's perfect, every thought I have is perfect, wrong. Every thought I had before was already perfect because I'm a rationalist. I could have, and we do in a sense, in throughout our lives, accumulate beliefs. We're belief gathering machines, like Velcro. They just stick to us. We don't even realize they're happening because we only challenge them when there's a big negative effect, in a sense. I mean, some people less than others, but even then, we're in a sense, we have all kind of internal biases. So the problem is people like to think themselves as reasoned or logic thinkers, but the truth is that neuroscientists can prove that in a sense we're emotive thinkers. Always. When our mind is awake, it's emotional. In fact, when we're reasoning, we're still underlining it in some amount with emotions. It's not like emotions ever turn off. We're this highly emotional beings. That's why we are excited by colors, and we're excited by noises and movies that do fast things, and whatever. We're constantly excitement machines. That's why video games, like you mentioned, we like excitement. We like stories. We're just emotional excitement machines. So we're going to constantly have to reevaluate beliefs that we're gathering. We should try to be careful of beliefs that we just grab and acquire, but we're going to acquire them. Even if we're careful, little ones will slip in there, beliefs that may not have any actual basis and reason. And so to me, it takes really also, besides good belief acquisition understanding, it's good belief maintenance. Rechecking in ourselves every once in a while. Go, you know what? Is this really reasonable? Is this really a good belief? Do I have a lot of good justification of why I think this? And reassessing, does this match? Is this the most accurate? Because sometimes someone could say, well, the earth, is not flat. Well, not flat doesn't mean it's the correct shape. You could say it's square, which would be in a sense closer than not flat, but still inaccurate. You could say that the earth is round. That was also not fully accurate because the earth actually has warps and hills and stuff, so it's not perfectly. But certainly round is better than square or better than flat. But But I'm saying is that we need to be willing to update. And just because we're not the most wrong doesn't mean we've equaled the most right or the most accurate.
Yes.
So they'll say, well, this did good. Well, did it do the most good, though? Could we do something that's better? Like you could say, we could still use 70s technology or whatever to get to the moon. Well, we could. But is that the best way? Should we be using that method? Or should we try something like advanced with the computers we have today? So the fact that's the same thing with spanking. People are like, well, it works. It works the way that, black and white, television works. Do you want that or do you want the high definition? Because the black and white television, besides the fact that, like I said, the abuse that happens, to a child, it's not really that effective. It's this outdated thing that has a minimal effect, even if you deny all the abuse. And we don't need to rely on that. It's not ever been the best, and it certainly doesn't get the best result.
I'm just hoping, and I'm just positive about parents learn all this stuff and it's really important for even for them. It's good for them too, and their child. And we have information available on the internet. It's just how we extract the data. There's a bunch of information. We are being bombarded with all this information. But as a skeptical or as a rational person, it's always good to extract the data. Look for the right information.
Right. Well, and speaking of that, there's 5 criteria for positive discipline that's been outlined. That helping children feel a sense of connection is number 1. That doing that actually helps, in a sense, create positive behaviors. And that it's mutually respectful and encouraging. That your type of discipline should be respectful and encouraging, kind but firm at the same time. And then effective long-term type of behaviors. Consider the child as thinking, as feeling, as learning, as deciding about themselves and their world. And then strive to, in a sense, to thrive for them to understand, to question, like you said, to think through their problems. Not to, in a sense, because hitting them teaches them that violence works for your problems, instead of helping them to think through their problems. And then the other thing is that what you do as a punishment, in a sense, or discipline, should be that it teaches important social skills and life skills. Not just in a sense to coerce them, but teach them respect, concern for others, teach them problem solving, cooperation.
I see. Also, I come across this word, they call it tough love,
Oh, tough love?
Some point, yeah, tough love. So, one day I just, made real bad, I use a real bad metaphor, for the tough love, and I really don't get this, what's tough love? How do you do that?
Well, I think that the issue of tough love would first have to start with love. So if you're going to say you do tough love, which you really should be doing in a positive way to me. I don't know how, everyone uses terms differently, so I would ask someone to define what they mean by tough love. But to me, if you're saying tough, are you focusing, it should be the love, not the toughness. So and I think that what it should be is that we hold them accountable would be a better thing. And then we show them how to hold themselves accountable. It's better than us to constantly monitor their behavior. Help them learn to monitor their behavior themselves. So teaching them, mutual respect, not just for others, but for themselves. And I think that effectively disciplining children needs to change from this type of like authoritarian to learning problem-solving skills. Because if they're having a problem, whether it's their feelings or their problems of behavior, these are problems that need problem-solving skills. So I think that our goal, should be to aid them, not force them, but aid them to see positive coping skills. And I think that one way that you can do this is reasoning with them, showing them different things, like in a sense, not directly related to them, but show them into something else, almost like play puppets or whatever, kind of an idea. Here's these things. If they do this, how do you think they could solve this? Get them to start thinking about solutions. How would you say, I'm raising you as a child. If you were raising, a child or had a friend, how would the friend best solve this problem? How would they, how do you think? Get them to start questioning, start thinking. If this behavior happened and it wasn't wanted, it wasn't appreciated, how do you think that could have been done differently? Get them to start thinking. I think that we always like to act like the children can't learn or can't think, and we're high, like you said, we've gone to the moon. Our ability to think is great, and we should be inspiring that.
Yeah, we have been pushing the limits ever since the age of humanity. Ever since we left the trees. So we have been pushing limits, and it's good. It's good to push the limits. We need to spread out through the space because we are facing big issues. We don't know that how long the planet gonna sustain the humans. We are over 7 billion right now, India and China. So yeah, we need to push the limits. We need to think out of the box, and we need to think maybe there is no box. I think that's what we need to do, and it all begins in a childhood.
I agree.
The more we encourage our children to be more reasonable, more rational, and just don't use any kind of physical abuse or spanking and any kind of negative thing that seems to be working for a while, but we know better now. So
well, just like you said, they're reasonable and rational. I think maybe you could ask somebody, who believes in spanking, do you think there is value in teaching your child to be reasonable and rational? And if they say yes, then the question would be, how much do they learn about being reasonable and rational by being spanked? I mean, how much benefit? Or do you think there's more benefit in actually talking with them and reasoning with them, thus teaching them reason? I mean, I think that...
yeah, I think, they don't actually learn anything, They only learn something that, that if I do this, I'm going to get spanked,
right.
So
which is not reason.
I need to please my abuser. So rather than the reason and the cause of their behavior, I think they more focus on the abuser, the spanking they got.
Exactly.
They don't get anything. I don't think anyone can be reasonable, with the spanking or with any form of punishment. You cannot make people reasonable or make people thinking, because they don't. That's how human reacts. That's how human reacts to the violence. I think.
Well, yeah, and in my personal experience, I was spanked a lot and abused a lot. In fact, even my dad is an extreme abuser, and actually he hit me with a 2x4 and broke my tailbone. And in fact, after a certain age, I stopped crying when he would spank me, and he said he was going to start, punching me. So he punched me and said that was going to be my new way of being, disciplined. And then I told my stepfather, and my stepfather threatened, to show him a little bit of his own violence. And so he didn't do it. But the point is that just like I was saying, that here's someone who was a pro spanking, but when spanking didn't seem to be as effective as he wanted, he just upped it to a higher form of violence.
Mm.
Not that that more spanking was gonna be the solution. And to me, it's not a reasoned form of how to raise children. It's actually the unreasoned form of trying to, in a sense, control children. And so to me, I think that, even if someone, thinks that they, would want to support it, I don't see how. I don't see how ethically, I don't see how through science, and I certainly don't see how through reason. And certainly, if you're compassionate, I really don't see how.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I think the spanking debate is over. I learned a lot from you.
Thanks.
And now I would like to go. And
all right. Well, it's been good talk.
It's been nice to talk to you, and I think we learn a lot. And
yeah.
I think people on the social media will learn more from this debate.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Have a good one.